All right, forget everything you think you know about the internet. Today, we are going deep. We're journeying into its shadow self, a world of digital ghosts and modern folklore that was born in a totally different online ecosystem.
You know, from the outside, Russia can sometimes feel like this bizarro version of a Western country. There are these huge, surprising similarities, right? A love for hockey, these massive, cold landscapes, but then you hit this uncanny valley. The Cyrillic alphabet, completely separate social media platforms, and these bizarre clones of Western brands. It's a place where everything feels familiar, but nothing is quite the same.
And that exact feeling, it extends directly to their internet culture. It has its own legends, its own monsters, and its own mysteries. So today, we're going to dive into 3 of the most fascinating and honestly pretty creepy stories from the Russian web.
Okay, let's get into our first case. This is a story that started making the rounds on Russian image boards way back in 2010. It all kicks off with a creature, an apartment building, and a video file that, well, supposedly didn't even exist.
So the legend was absolutely terrifying. People were describing seeing these screenshots of a spider-like being scaling a building, and the source was always cited as this one video file, Station 922 MKV. But here's the catch. Anyone who tried to play the video would supposedly have their computer's operating system completely wiped out.
What's so fascinating is how this digital ghost story evolved over an entire decade. It wasn't just a single event. It was this collaborative narrative built by the community. You know, a fake video didn't kill the legend. It actually fueled it. It sparked a serious investigation. This story became so ingrained that years later, a fan could create a detailed 3D recreation of a video that never even existed in the first place. So, the internet detectives started by comparing the famous screenshots to that 2013 video, and the inconsistencies were immediate and just obvious. The original images were grainy, they were yellowish and brightly lit. The new video? Dark, with an orange tint and no grain at all. It was so clear these screenshots could not have come from this video. And here's the big reveal. After years of digging, I'm talking interviewing residents of the actual building and even tracking down the original poster, the truth finally came out. There was never a video. The monster was a Photoshop creation. The entire legend was a brilliantly executed hoax, and it was meticulously unraveled by a super dedicated community. All right, let's move on to our next case. This one shifts from a fictional monster to a very, very real and unsettling location. It involves this strange, kind of crude computer game that popped up on 4chan back in 2013, supposedly found on some mysterious CD. The gameplay itself is simple, but just incredibly unnerving. You're dropped in with zero explanation, just an infinite green field under a black sky with this constant droning sound. And then these white faces start floating down. And if one touches you, the game just quits. That's it. No game over screen, no explanation. It just ends. Now, the game was creepy all on its own, but then one investigator found something that changed absolutely everything, a set of geographical coordinates hidden inside one of the game's walls. All of a sudden, this abstract horror was connected to the real world.
This discovery just opened up a brand new mystery. The question wasn't, what is this game anymore? It became, where on earth does this lead?
The coordinates led investigators to a remote industrial complex just outside Mirny, Siberia. And this place, it is unbelievably desolate. Mirny is right next to Yakutsk, the coldest city on the entire planet. And it's defined by this giant man-made diamond mine that's over a kilometer wide. The game's location was a real, polluted, grim-looking industrial site.
But just like our last case, the story didn't hold up. The original poster claimed the game was a few years old, but investigators discovered it was made with a version of Blender that was released in March of 2013, the very same year he posted it. He was lying. The whole thing was most likely a failed attempt to start a viral alternate reality game.
Now for our final exhibit, let's look at how a creepy story can be completely transformed by internet culture, turning from horror into a long-lasting joke. It's pretty amazing.
So this all started with a video uploaded back in 2008. It claimed to be footage of a TV hijacking on a Russian educational channel, and it began with this simple, unnerving message: do not be afraid. It was followed by this list of bizarre instructions like think only about him and hands for inspection, all accompanied by these strange diagrams and a constant single synthesizer note.
And then it ended with this cryptic question, asking the viewer, did it work? before claiming that after watching, you'd feel joy and your future would turn out just fine.
But the truth, once again, was far less sinister. Investigators traced the images back to their sources. The rabbit came from a children's coloring book, the diagram from a math textbook. And the likely culprit behind this creepy broadcast? Yeah, probably a middle schooler with some free time.
But this is where the story gets truly interesting, and it really showcases the internet's power for transformation. Instead of just disappearing, the video became this massive meme called Bezzy's Holonust, which roughly translates to lifelessness. It spawned thousands of parodies, from silent film versions to edits filled with early 2010s gaming jokes. The creepy video became a beloved piece of internet culture.
So, what do these three very different cases, a Photoshop monster, a failed ARG, and a student's video project, all have in common? What's the thread here?
Well, the big takeaway is that in every single case, the initial mystery was fake, but the legacy became very, very real. Station 922 wasn't really about a monster. It was about the thrill of a community investigation. Station.exe wasn't a cursed game. It showed that a real, desolate place can be way more haunting than any fiction. And Bezos Knostis proved that the internet's ultimate power is to take our fears and just turn them into a shared joke.
These stories are, for all intents and purposes, digital folklore. They're modern campfire tales that evolve with every single share and every comment. And it just makes you wonder, in all the different corners of the global internet, what other fascinating, strange, and unique stories are being born right now, just waiting for us to discover them?